Thank you, Zoom. Hi, Julie Hughes. How are
Hi,
you?
Cher. I'm
What's
great. How are
going
you?
on? Good. Thank you for taking time. I know you're not able to be with us today at the Lipstick Network launch, but I'm so grateful for you carving out time because you are a fifth grade teacher. So you go do that. I want everyone
They need
to
me.
know a little bit about you because I love you and I'm grateful for you. And so I would love for everyone to know a little bit about Julie Hughes and your experience. And then we're going to deep dive into executive functioning skills, your practice, why we need it for our children and for us, parents. And you are part of the parenting practicum. So you are giving us the tactical, practical stuff to hopefully
Mhm.
make life and love and all of the things just better. So the floor is
Well,
yours.
that's a very tall order. I do hope that everyone will come away with very tangible ideas of ways to support these skills at home. So that's going to be our goal for today. So my name is Julie. I have been a classroom teacher for the last 18 years, and I spend most of my time, or have spent most of my time, in middle school classrooms teaching language arts. And what ended up happening was that I saw this need. Well, there's a big tutor culture right now going on, very prevalent in Tampa for good, bad, or otherwise, right? But what I saw was that kids were relying on tutors to get their homework done and not necessarily having the tools and strategies themselves to do things more independently. And so what I did was I shifted a couple of years ago and started an executive functioning coaching business, which is a very long-winded way to say, I want to teach kids how to do it themselves. That's the goal. The goal is that, we should, a lot of kids do develop these skills in school, which is great. But a lot of kids, if you've got kids that have learning differences, that have been diagnosed with ADHD, that are just a little fidgety and don't love school, all of these things can be very challenging. And so giving kids the tools to then kind of work myself out of a job. So I will help you. I will model. I will show you exactly what to do. I'll show you how to backwards plan so then you can do it yourself and you don't need me anymore.
Well, wow. Okay. Well, then let's jump right into it. You
We'll
got
jump
some
in.
slides for me, Enneagram 1?
I sure do. I love a
Always
good
prepared and
show.
organized. Love that.
All right. So let
Oh,
me go ahead and
pretty.
let's all right. So here we go. So um executive functioning skills I think has been a chatter within the educational world and the parenting world for the past. I mean, honestly, the research has been going on since the 80s, but truly this has become, I think, kind of a forefront in education over the last, I would say, maybe like 5, 10 years. And so what I want to be able to do for people is to kind of tell them, okay, well, what are we talking about when we talk about executive skills? Um, these are a set of skills that help us function. That's why they're called executive functioning skills. And what they have to do is with the frontal part of the brain. And it is, how do we as people, as little people and as adults, use and hold information, filter out distractions and figure out what we need to do next, switch gears. That's that big flexibility component. There's also a lot of just how do I make sure that I'm getting from point A to point B in an efficient, effective way.
I love that, because Dr. Shandra Davis is actually talk to us about the psychology of
Mhm.
children in that prefrontal cortex and what we should kind of expect of them and honestly expect of ourselves. So I really love that we're moving into back to that like tactical tool
Mhm.
based application here with the skills.
Well, and this is a good point, right? So number one, they're skills. These are things that we develop over time and we can practice and we can get better at. It's not that your child is good at this or bad at this and it's going to stay that way. That's number one. And number two, really, when we're talking about the prefrontal cortex of the brain, that doesn't develop. Research is now saying 25 to be fully developed. So we just, I think, have to be number one, patient and kind with ourselves and patient and kind with our kids. Peg Dawson, who I will talk about in just a second, she's, I think, one of the four, like the leading researchers on this. And she really does talk, every time you hear her speak, she says, like, let's be nice to ourselves and have realistic expectations for kids. Because even in high school, these skills are still developing. It is unrealistic when we talk about the different skills that kids have. It's unrealistic to think that a middle schooler is mastering these. Middle schoolers need to have these modeled for them and practiced. And our high schoolers, we want to develop independence with them. But really, they do take a lot of time and patience. So briefly, the three main parts of the brain that we're talking about, the three main functions that kind of work together to have this set of skills are working memory, self-regulation, and mental flexibility. So if you're reading academic literature about it, those are the three functions, the three brain functions that you'll hear. And then basically what happens is that from these functions, the skills themselves get derived.
Okay.
So I wanted to kind of give, there's a lot of debate over the skills, over like how many there are, and there's a wide range. I'm choosing Peg Dawson. And the reason is I like her as a practitioner. I think that her, like she's been doing this research for a very long time and has put out these books, Smart but Scattered. And there's like
I'm like, you're changing my life right now. Wow. I'm gonna Amazon that when we get done, for real. Smart but Scattered.
I have a
Yeah,
copy.
that's me. Squirrel.
Well, there's a Smart but Scattered adults. So they talked about honing this in as like adult skills too.
Okay.
But what I like about Peg Dawson is this. If people are listening to this and saying, okay, I think that my kid really does need support with some of these things, she does a very good job of giving specific strategies at home and specific strategies in the classroom that will help your child to improve on these skills. And so she kind of divides them into two. She has 11 skills. The foundational skills are what we learn when we are younger and are necessary then for the advanced skills. And so just quickly, response inhibition, working memory, emotional control, flexibility, sustained attention, task initiation, all then lead up to more of our middle school, high school, college needs of planning, prioritizing, organization, time management, goal-directed persistence, and metacognition.
Okay. So that foundational, elementary, toddler, that's kind of the parentheses around that. And then those are the foundational skills, obviously, and then building upon. Okay. Elementary.
Well, you make a good point though, because you and I were talking last week, and these skills in theory start as early as maybe 6 months, but really the time span for those foundational skills for our toddlers, so 3 to 5, is a huge like zone of proximal development, right? This is a time when kids really learn those skills and are able to practice those in a variety of ways. And so those foundational skills, even if you're looking in elementary school and kids are struggling with some of those advanced skills, like going back to the foundational skills is really where you want to spend your time and energy.
Okay. Actually, that's really good. So if you're thinking about the foundation of a house and those foundational skills are a brick, a kid in middle school is missing one of those foundational bricks. Instead of trying to gloss over it with an advanced skill, you want to focus on that foundational brick before moving on. That's good imagery for me. Okay. Yeah. Love that.
And it's not that like things do not necessarily have to be first A and then B and then C. You can be working on skills together. But if you're seeing, for example, like sustained attention is a very good example. There are ways to help kids build sustained attention. And it's just practice, right? It's just practice at setting a timer. It's like, hey, how long do you think you can do this for? Let's set a timer. Let's challenge ourselves to add a minute or add 2 minutes in a few days. But so for example, if you're finding that homework time is a huge struggle, really focusing on sustained attention is a really good time or a really good use of your time rather than trying to do time management. So instead of telling your child, okay, you have this much to do and you have this much time to do it, and then you have to do this, and then you have to do this, really focusing on one thing and kind of bringing their attention to one thing, will be it'll just get better results.
Good. Breaking it down. Love it. Good.
Okay. So why executive functioning skills? So, I mean, there's a huge, the Center on Developing Child from Harvard University. I like them as well. They're one of the resources that I wanted to share with people just because they have a lot of practical tools, for parents. And basically we're talking about success for kids in school. We're talking about social success, having these skills, being developed and strengthening as you get older. And we're also talking about fully functioning human adults. So to have, there's a lot of time and money right now going in on the research side and on how to support parents and schools and organizations, because there's really like a big benefit to our society at large of having adults in the workforce with this set of skills.
Yeah, good.
And so specifically, when your kid is, trucking along and doing okay with these skills, you're going to see them not have a backpack that's a disaster. Being able to organize materials and actually use things like folders or binders or notebooks, which become more important in elementary and middle school. They'll be able to turn in work on time. They're going to be able to plan out assignments and not wait till the last minute. Eventually, they'll really develop those study skills and that metacognition part of thinking about what's the goal that I have? How do I get there? How reflecting on it, like, how did I do that? You'll see that start to develop, throughout middle school and into high school. And that is obviously a big academic benefit. Charity.
Question, teacher Hughes.
Yeah.
How much nagging is involved with this? Like, how, when you say about folders and all of that, like how long is, I know every kid is different, but how long does it take for a child to transition from like, put your stuff in your folder, put your stuff in your backpack, get your water bottle, da, da, da. Talk to me a little bit about that, because to me, independence really matters for my girls. And so, yeah, that internal motivation as well. So could you talk to me the linkage between kind of like routine, skills, internal motive? What does that look like? Or are we not there yet?
Okay, so we have a whole section on routines, but here's the hard thing with routines. If kids are not intrinsically motivated to do it, you're going to have to put the carrot with it. Like there is something to be said about like, these are our expectations in our home, and you need to be able to do this. But the more we can get kids involved in the process, deciding what folder to use or where to put the shoes, like giving two choices. Would you like to do it this way, or would you like to do it this way? And the two choices are both okay with you. The more you're able to get, well, honestly, right? Like, would you like to put your backpack in this spot or this spot? Would you like to pick a snack that is this snack or that snack? You choose, totally fine with me. Like, you pick. The more we can give kids choice, autonomy, feeling competent, like the routines are just going to go way better. It's going to be less of a fight. So even like when I'm thinking about elementary school and middle school kids, thinking about, do you want to do your homework right when you get home, or do you want to take a 10-minute break, or do you want to take a 30-minute break? You pick. Are you fried, or are you ready to get right to work? And just making sure that the choices you put in front of them are choices you can live with, depending on what they choose.
That's
but
good.
It is hard. And the less nagging, honestly, it's going to be better for everybody, right?
Yes.
Everybody.
Yes. That's church right there. Yep. Let's go.
So the last point on the slide is simply that once you have these, as your kids develop these skills, not only do you see academic benefits, but you see social benefits too. And so kids with stronger executive functioning skills are able to work in a group more effectively, adapt and change, not have meltdowns when things don't go their way. That comes with maturity too, making decisions and thinking critically. So there are social benefits to this. So not only do we want a productive workforce, we want our kids to succeed academically, we want our kids to succeed socially, and these skills just help to build success for all of those things.
Awesome.
Okay, so this is where the rubber hits the road, right? Supporting your children. My 3 big takeaways for you are going to be this. Number 1, avoid being a lawnmower parent. I will tell you what that means. Establishing routines. This is what you had just kind of asked about, and I have some good tips for that. And then help with, but do not do the work for your kid. Okay. Lawnmowers. So we, in the education world, talk about helicopter parents, and the helicopter parents are the ones who are like flying over and looking at everything for their child and want to be very involved. And there's nothing inherently wrong with any of these terms, although perhaps educators maybe we have fun.
But I feel like that's so 2002.
Right. So the helicoptering is still in full force, but what we're seeing develop now, which can be problematic, is this idea of I'm going in front of my child and I am removing barriers for them because I think I need to. And you might actually not need to. There are some problems, let's just say it, that parents have to solve 100%. And there are going to be times when kids don't know how to solve problems. And so the conversation might sound more like, okay, you have this problem. What are you going to do about it? And they say, and they look at you genuinely and they say, I don't know. And then you say, okay, do you want some suggestions? And if they do, you can give some suggestions. And I use language like, well, some kids try this, or some kids might want to do this. Like, does that sound like something that maybe you want to do?
Hmm.
And so by giving kids choices, it helps them to be problem solvers. But we really want to avoid needlessly removing small challenges, obstacles, setbacks, because we're not letting our children grow. Like, we're not giving them the opportunity to problem solve. So if you think about all of those executive functioning skills, the more kids can independently problem solve, the more they're practicing those skills, and the more they're building this repertoire of solutions and flexible choices and things that they can do. It's really important to support your child, but there's no need for you to remove or preemptively solve problems that are not a problem. And if it is a problem, legitimately, your kid didn't do their homework, your kid didn't study, your kid didn't turn the project in on time, there needs to be a little bit of uncomfortableness.
Yeah.
And they'll learn that time management. That will be a good learning experience for them. So my first point is, in order to support these skills, don't always rush in to solve problems for your kids. Take a pause, take a beat, ask yourself, do they really need your help? And even if they do, like, your kid forgets their project at home, is it going to kill them to solve that problem themselves? We don't have to drive
or fail the grade, or
Yeah,
whatever,
you
get a
don't
bad grade.
you don't have to drive lunch into your kid. Someone will feed your kid, right? They will. We're not going to let your kid starve. You don't have to drive in the project. Maybe it's a couple of points off for being late, but maybe that's the lesson.
Yeah. For me, it's rooting about character. I think we want all of our children to be good, kind humans. And with that is like building character, resilience, and accountability, right? Like, this is my action. I have to have accountability for that. I feel like that's okay. So I really love that to me is, you love your kids, you don't want them to suffer.
Oh,
But
yeah.
actually I feel like it's short-term solution,
Mhm.
and not being very visionary or very long-term, wanting what's best for them. So thank you for saying this lovingly, and kind of the why, and what that trickle as a middle school teacher, like, this is what it can snowball into. Thank you for that.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that on the extreme, like, if you're a parent who continues to do this all the time, you're actually, unfortunately, making your kid a little bit helpless, like that learned helplessness. Because every time you do that, you're communicating, well, I don't trust you to solve this problem yourself, so I have to do it because you're not able to. And that's a really tough lesson for kids. And maybe they care, but then after a while, maybe they don't. And so we don't want to not give our kids opportunities to grow.
It's honestly my worst nightmare for my daughters to think that they're not capable of something, that it's obviously not going to be perfect or whatever, but that, yeah, I can see how me overshadowing and taking away. Yeah. Thank you. That's very
And it's
powerful to
hard
me.
because
So hard.
when parents, like, I've never met a parent who didn't love their child. Parents only make decisions that they think are going to be best for their child. They really do. And as a teacher, I know that.
Yeah.
And because we have different perspectives, and because, I have seen how kids can really rise to the occasion. Or how about this? Our kids really rise to the expectation that we set. So if your expectation is like, my kid can't do it and I have to fix it and I have to problem solve, then we're here. But if you're like, look, It might be ugly, but my kid can do it one way or another. It will, like, it's not going to be the end of the, it just won't be the end of the world. It might feel bad right now, but it will be okay.
It will be okay.
It will
Good.
be okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Routines. So you talked about routines. I have seen some amazing resources and parenting for like establishing routines. Establishing routines in your house is a great way to help with executive functioning. So I know there's a lot of stuff on this slide. Really, what I want you to be thinking about are what are the routines you already have in place in the morning, after school, in the evening? What do you want that to look like, feel like? Kind of maybe even do a mental walk or a physical walk of like, okay, when my kid comes in, what do I want to have happen? And with our little ones, it really can be, I want my kid to come in and I want my kids to take off their shoes and put them somewhere. I want them to go to the restroom, wash their hands, get ready for a snack, put their stuff somewhere.
Hmm.
And that's doable. You know, that's doable for our 4-year-olds, for our 5-year-olds. Now,
Yeah.
does it take a lot of work? Yeah. I mean, when you're developing routines, you got to do it with your kid. You have to be like, okay, where, like I said, where are we putting the shoes? What snack are we getting? And so getting their input is going to help that to be a process that you don't fight about. Because if you talk to them and they say, okay, this is our routine, and then everyone agrees on it, then it's just the routine. It's not mom telling you what to do. It's like, oh no, that's the routine. You just go do it. And you're like, it's just not a fight. It doesn't become a me versus you thing.
Yeah.
When I'm thinking about your girls and I'm thinking about our younger ones, visuals, write it out, have a picture, have that in multiple places.
Okay.
So it can be like where they park their backpack, having a spot. Anyone who's listening, having a spot for your backpack, like where does the backpack live, will make your life way easier, especially in the mornings when you're stressed and everyone wakes up late and you need to get your stuff and you need to go.
I'm writing, where does the backpack live down? Just so you
Where
know.
does the backpack live? There's got to be, I mean, I've seen people have bins right next to their doors and the backpacks go in the bins. And that's, and each kid gets a bin. And that way, like, because you're going to have some like loose papers that like do not have a home. And at least it's a catch-all.
Sure. I like it.
And then after school, you know, like I said, thinking about for our older kids, like what does the technology routine look like? What does the homework routine look like? And in the evening, you know, like what limits do we put on technology? How do you want kids to transition to like nighttime, calm time? And so once you've decided like, hey, like our whatever is very stressful, our end of the night routine is very stressful, and we want to kind of revamp that, have the talk with your kid, come to an agreement on what you think is okay, walk the routine with your kid, model the routine, and you're just going to have to do a lot of prompting every night, because it's not going to become really consistent for a while, and they'll just need prompts. And the prompts after a couple of weeks can just be like, okay, so you did this, what's next? What do you remember? Oh, you don't know? Okay, where can you find it out? Go to the picture. All right, you did this. Okay, what's next? Okay, you do this. Can you go do it? Okay, go do it.
I like that. Where any recommendations about where pictures, like teachers pay teachers, or is there like a website we can check out?
Oh, yeah, I mean, there's so many. I mean, like honestly,
You
Pinterest
can
is,
send me some. Just
I
we'll
will.
send it to all that, and we'll just like Mrs. Hughes recommendations for printouts.
Yeah. And so if people
Cool.
don't know, Teacher Pay Teachers is a site that's like very affordable, where like a ton of teachers really just put materials. There's a ton of early elementary routines and things like that for parents.
Okay.
Pinterest, mom blogs are amazing. I made a client one on Canva. I just asked her what the routine was that she wanted, and I typed in routines, and then they had pictures there. So
It's
I'll
very
do
sweet
it.
that you do that for your clients. That's very cool.
They pay me.
They should. That's awesome. Yeah. All right.
Okay, so the big takeaway with routines are really hard. The more buy-in you have, the better it will go. And routines really support executive functioning skills, because kids are practicing all of those different things by going through this routine. And when I know what to expect out of something, I'm just able to do it more effectively and more efficiently.
Okay.
And we're practicing just all of those life skills.
One quick question before we move on from routines. Do you recommend, so our girls, the morning getting dressed disaster. Do you recommend a complete overhaul of the morning routine, or do you like to see one shift at one different move at a time and make it more of like a bit more subtle? So it's less of a, or is that harder? I don't know.
I think just the subtle part is hard only because like I think you're still living with a routine that's difficult. And if it's
Okay.
difficult for you, my guess is it's difficult for the kids. So
Okay.
maybe just having the conversation of like, hey, this doesn't feel very good to me. How does it feel to you? Okay, what can we do to change it? And then just make the changes together. Because I think it'll be less for them. It'll be more for them to learn up front, but you're still going to be modeling and prompting. So either you model and prompt all of it, or you model and prompt one thing and then another thing and then another thing and then another thing. I think it would just drag out too much.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. And I think the why. I think, like kids are
Mm,
smart.
yeah.
When things feel stressful, like no one wants a morning that feels stressful. It doesn't help anybody.
Every morning.
I
Yes.
know. I know. Okay, last thing. This is for elementary, middle, high school even, right? So here's the deal with homework and any kind of at-home work.
Hmm.
It is so much faster to just do stuff for kids. It just is. That's the same thing with routines. It is. It totally is. It is easier for you to do the dishes than teach them to put it in the dishwasher. It is. It is easier for you to pick up their clothes and to put them away rather than teaching them where things need to go, because inevitably you're going to have, your trail of laundry. But it is really worth it to be able to do these things, and putting things into place that are going to give you like those long-term rewards. So for homework, thinking about having a time and a place for kids to do homework, helping them to see, okay, what's most important? What do we have to get done first? And make a to-do list, like a sticky note, like number 1, number 2, number 3, with a little checkbox. I love checking things off. Your kitchen timer or on your phone. So the thing is with a phone, phones are so easy, but phones do create distractions.
Mm.
So like an old school kitchen timer, beep, 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 5 minutes, go. That really does help. Spot checking for quality. All I mean is you do not need to redo your kids' homework. You don't. But what you can do is thinking about how do you, oh, you missed these, or I can't read that. You need to that's what I mean by spot checking. I don't mean you need to do all of the math and make sure that they're right. I mean, that's the teacher's job.
I
And if
got
they're
you.
not, that's a different conversation.
All right. I got that.
All right, projects. Who loves a good science fair project? I feel like most parents hate long-term projects. Really and truly, like the hard thing about projects is just like everyone forgets to do things along the way and then it's miserable at the end. So helping your kids backwards plan, okay, here's our end
Oh,
goal. Here's, like how much work we have to get done each day. What materials do you need from me? Do you have those materials at your workspace? What else do you need? Okay, today's the day you're going to work on your project. What are you going to get done? You're going to get this, this, and this done. Awesome. How long do you think it'll take you? 20 minutes? Cool. I'll check back in 20 minutes with you. Let me know if you need my help.
hmm. Good. And like, hey, and then after you do your 20 minutes, then like, are we do our little celebration dance? Like the little bit of that joy or celebration, right?
I do think that having small rewards, stickers, I know that sounds like very silly, but like stickers, let's play our favorite song, give me a high five, kiss your brain, do the whoop whoop, like anything that gets the kid like 100% to celebrate those small successes along the way.
Good.
Middle school, high school, right? So you're going to start having tests, thinking about again, how can we extend studying time over a few days versus the night before? How can you use both passive and active reading strategies? So passive is going to be anything that's already created for you that you're just reading through.
Okay.
It's a good way to practice vocabulary, and especially if there's a lot of content like in science and in social studies.
Okay.
But then reading strategies are actually what you need to get to. And that's going to be redoing homework, making your own study guide, quizzing each other. Hey, there's a picture in this. Tell me about the picture. Or here's a diagram. Explain the diagram to me. So more active strategies like that will help kids not only have, I mean, research has shown that it will be when you plan different times to study over multiple days, your brain attaches the setting where you were and what you were doing to material. And the more chances you have at that, the more it sticks.
Cool. Quick question. Passive strategies, active strategies. Is that really only for middle school, high school kids, or can you do a younger version of that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking about really, I think you're going to start like looking at real tests and actually studying for tests around second, third grade, which is why I said that.
Okay. Thank you. I gotcha.
Yep. All right. Last thing I have are just some resources, and Sharon, I'll make sure that you have the links to this. Peg Dawson, you know, again, I think that she just does a really great job. And so even just Googling her book, she's got like just lots of resources online for actual strategies for parents that are all free. The Center for the Developing Child with Harvard, again, this is a website. I know I just put the top, but it's a website that really has tons and tons of resources. And then I found EF Works Library, and this is a commission to just try to help parents and organizations and families, specifically empowering families to use executive functioning skills and practice those at home.
That's awesome. Thank you for this amazing presentation. I have a couple questions for you if you'll humor us for a couple of minutes.
Yes.
So thank you. Everyone's going to be clapping for you. It's wonderful. So one of the things, as you know, the founder of southerncoaching.com, can you talk to me a little bit about how you come alongside parents and families? I would be really curious about how you work with families. If someone has like a 2-year-old, a 6-year-old, a 10-year-old, is it generally one child at a time, or is it a collective familial kind of overhaul, or is it really just a bespoke thing? I'd be really curious to know how in your practice you come alongside families to really enhance these executive functioning skills.
Well, I think that one of the things that I really care about is making sure that parents are a part of this conversation. So hearing their feelings and their anxieties and trying to really just take into account what they need from me. And so we can certainly do things like family calendars, whiteboards, establishing routines and things like that. But really with children, it's going to be an individual basis, because really what one kid needs is, I've found that it's really difficult to lump children together. And so what I've done with different families that have multiple siblings is that it would be like a one and then a second.
Okay.
And then I talk afterwards about all of it.
And last question I have for you, have you seen in your practice, in your work, where some kids do have learning differences? Have you seen executive functioning skills be the most helpful for a particular learning difference, or is it really just life stage and it's not really as formulaic as all that?
No, kids with ADHD, like
Okay.
if you have a kid with ADHD and you're able to get practice with executive functioning skills, it makes the biggest difference, I find.
That's awesome. All right. So Julie Hughes, before you go, how can people get in touch with you?
So I have my my business, and Charity has my, are we gonna like share like
Yeah,
cell
I'm
phone?
gonna share your stuff. Yeah.
Cell phone.
But people can reach out to you and make an appointment if they would like a consult, and you guys can have a chitty chat.
I like talking to people. You don't need to pay me. Like call me and like tell me what your problem is, and I'll tell you if you need help or not, or what resources you can use for yourself. But so my email is julie@southerncoach.com. And if you go to southerncoach.com, you'll go to my website and you'll see just different things that I have up there for parents for free. And again, like I have worked, I've talked with parents before where, you know, they're like, okay, well, this is my situation. I'm like, okay, cool. Do this, this, and this. I will send you this for free. You do not need me. So really empowering people to kind of solve problems with their families, and then certainly like partnering with other people if needed. But I just want to be a resource for people. is really what it comes down to.
Julie Hughes, you are a blessing to me. You are in your calling. And this whole day is about empowerment, and you empower families, you empower children, and what a legacy that we're newish friends. And so it's amazing to see you at work today. And so thank you for your time and your commitment to this, and love you. Thank you.
Love you too. Thanks so much. I hope everyone has an amazing time, and this is so exciting. So I'm so happy to be part of it.
Thank you for being a part of the Let's Stick Network launch.
Awesome.
And
Yeah.
have a good day. We miss you. I hope the kids are being
Thanks so
good.
much. Oh, it's going great. It's always great. Okay.
All right, babe. Ciao.
I'll see
Love
you later.
you.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.